Hi, welcome to Exercise for Beginners, where I teach you how to get started if you've never started before. Today, we are going to go over another set of hip mobility exercises. All right, a lot of our exercises today are actually going to be on the ground. You're not really going to have to get up. So we are going to sit in a position called a 90-90 position. So 90-90 is great for addressing some lateral hip shifts. So I struggle with this myself. Most people do to some capacity. So lateral hip shift means you have one hip that's hiked higher than the other. This often tends to, I'll show you standing up. If your hip is hiked, your shoulder drops. So if anyone's ever telling you, oh, your shoulder's higher on this side, you have a problem on this side, your problem's on the other side. So a lot of our issues tend to be contralateral, so on the opposite sides. So if you see something on one side, the origin could actually be coming from the other. So I had a guy who used to tell me all the time, oh yeah, your left shoulder is super high. And I'm like, yeah, it's because I need you to work on my right lat, right? So something to bear in mind. So if you have a right hip hike, right, I'm over exaggerating a little bit, you might see a right shoulder drop. On the other side, you might see a left hip drop as opposed to a hike, right? So my hips are sitting at, I can't see here, slightly different angles here. That starts to bother my back a little bit. So you start to see that different angle here. And then you see that shoulder hiked on the other side. So what that does in the long term, right, when your hips are shifted like that, what ends up happening is you could have some muscles that are stretched out, some that end up getting too tight. You could have, the openings along the path of your muscles and nerves start to rub on the nerves. I was having that issue. So just know that if you're ever feeling any of those types of sensations, none of us are perfect, but you can maybe help to put yourself in a more comfortable position. None of us are ever symmetrical, but we can make ourselves more comfortable. So don't fret. All right, so on to that 90-90 position. All right, so with 90-90, you're going to be sitting with let's start with our left leg is out in front. I'm going to start on the other side. I sit better on this side. Give you a better example. So our right leg's going to be out in front. We got 90 degree at this knee in front here. And then we have our left leg out to the side. We have 90 degrees in this knee over here. And then we have 90 degrees from our femurs coming towards each other in our groin area here. So what you're looking for is to be able to sit directly upright. So if you can do this in front of a mirror or take a video, this would be very helpful for you. Right, so on this side, I'm perfectly upright. And sorry, I haven't done a video in a couple weeks, so I'm losing my train of thought. You should be feeling a stretch and like the rotation in that back leg more. So what you don't want is to be feeling it here, but also feeling a lot in your glute. All right, so we're looking to only feel that stretch in the front here. So if it's too tight, you can lean forward a little bit, back off that stretch. What you also don't really want to feel is a pinching feeling. A pinching means that you got that head of the femur hitting the socket of the pelvis a little too tightly. So we don't want that. All right. Ideally, over time, that eases up. If you want to intensify it, you can lean back a little bit. Or lean this shoulder towards the knee or towards that ankle. You're not moving a whole lot. It's centimeters, right? They're very subtle movements. So you're going to sit here in this position for a minute, minute and a half, 2 minutes. Right? Wait until that stretch kind of eases up, and you're going to do it on both sides. Now, something to look for, and I'm a good example of this. So on this side, I have a hard time sitting directly upright. It's a little better now because I've been working on it, but there was a time where I was more slouched, like so. And I couldn't sit my hips all the way on the floor. So if you're having that issue, you're gonna grab a block or a pad that's a few inches thick, and you're gonna sit on that side. So you're gonna sit up, you're gonna sit that cheek and the upper half of that leg on that block. Now I'm very upright. Now all of a sudden you get a really deep stretch on that back leg. All right, this is great. This is what we're looking for. So remember, my right side is the side that is hiked. So chances are, if your left side is the side that's hiked, you might need to sit on the block on your right side. So something to bear in mind, something to look for. This helps you sit into this position more easily, which will help you get into this stretch and slowly balance you out a little bit. Just remember, you'll never be perfectly even. It's impossible. You'll just be more comfortable. Take what you can get. I tell myself that every day. All right, so again, you're gonna sit here for 60, 90, 120 seconds, or as long as you need to, as long as the stretch feels good, right? If you need to lean forward a little bit, take some of the intensity off, sit up a little tall or lean towards the ankle, whatever. Play with your positions a little bit. All right, lean back a little bit, whatever. I like to sometimes just sit up tall and maybe apply a little bit of pressure on that front leg. Not even a lot, like a centimeter's worth of pressure. Push that leg down just a smidge, and that'll intensify that stretch as much as I'm looking for. All right, so you're gonna sit here. When you are ready to come out of it, lean forward and then roll out. This can be a position you get kind of stuck in. So just take your time with it, move slowly. Like I said, we're gonna be staying in that 90-90 position quite a bit. So from here, I'll show you on an angle here. I'm gonna have you do some contractions and releases. So for the contract release, you can stay up on that block if you'd like to, if your hiked side is towards the back. But what you're gonna do here is you're gonna press that ankle and that heel into the ground. You're trying to rotate down into the ground. You're not gonna be able to visually see this in this video too much. It's very, very subtle. All right, but you're gonna feel it, and you wanna feel it in that glute. Okay, so you're gonna press down as hard as you can. You're gonna hold that for 10 seconds, and then you're gonna try and lift. All right, you see my whole body move. That's wrong. You wanna dig those hands into the ground, be nice and upright, contract that core, and then try and lift. You're not gonna go very far. All right, you're gonna hold again 10 more seconds, and then you're gonna try and lift again. And it's really hard. You might cramp. You will cramp. Well, not even might. And when that happens, just let go, shake it out, try again. You're gonna do that 3 to 5 times on each side. So contract, 2, 3, all the way to 10, and then try and lift. Over time, you might go from getting nowhere off the floor. There was a time I couldn't even get a millimeter off the floor. I just did my best. To getting, a centimeter or two. It's not a movement of great mobility, but it does help significantly in mobility. So again, press down. 1, 2, 5, 10. Then you're gonna lift and hold. Look at that. I got 2 whole centimeters. Fantastic. Again, you're gonna hold for 10 seconds. You want to make sure you're pressing down with that glute, not with your adductors. The glute. Try and turn these guys off if you're feeling it here too much, or recenter yourself, and then lift. I like to lift for like 2, 3, and then come back down. All right. Once you are done with your contract and release on both sides, we're just going to do some rotation. So again, you're going to sit up nice and tall. Your chest and torso is going to be aligned with that front leg, and you're going to be doing some rotations. So try not to open your body up. That's not the goal here. The goal is to get all that rotation coming from the hip socket. So you want to stay in line and just rotate as best as you can. You might not get very far. You might only get this far. That's fine. Do your best. Go as far as you can. Over time, you get further. This is a great one. I actually think this feels really good. I was not very good at it the first few weeks, but it does get better pretty quickly, I will say that. Just try to keep your movement at the source. All right, and then from here, you're gonna sit up nice and tall. Grab your ankles, arms inside your legs. You're going to squeeze together. Squeeze for 10, 15, 20, 30 seconds. Same kind of thing. It can be contract, release, and relax. What's nice about this, you do this after all those other things, it helps to set your pelvis, right? I did this, I started squeezing, I got a nice big crack deep inside here. What's happening? What's happening is you're opening up your mobility, you've stretched out the muscles surrounding your pelvis, therefore shifting it little by little into a spot where it should be sitting and it should be more comfortable. So first we had the stretch, then we had contract and release, then we had the rotation, and then we had squeeze, adductor squeeze, right? Helps to set the pelvis and the sacrum. All right? Things to be mindful of when doing stuff that might shift around a big complex in your body. It might not be comfortable. It might feel good initially, and then after a week or so, you might feel very uncomfortable, a little achy. Maybe you have some mild nerve symptoms. Try to just trust the process. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it's a little scary. I have been through stuff like this myself. So trust the process. You know, these are gentle movements. As time goes on, those things should dissipate. As long as they're mild, try not to be too afraid of them. And just monitor, you know, are they going away? Is this getting better? And then look for the light at the end of that tunnel. So like I said, anytime you're trying to open up or readjust positionings of things in your body, it's not going to be the most comfortable process. It might be a little achy, a little nervy. As long as it's mild, that's okay. You know, obviously consult a physician if you feel like you need to, but most of those things should go away within a few days. You know, it can obviously take a couple days to rest and, you know, let them dissipate before continuing. But it's not a small thing to readjust how your bones are sitting. So just bear that in mind as pressure is coming off certain places and readjusting to the other side. You know, it's just something to be mindful of. Okay, so that is it for today. Thank you again for joining me on this week's episode of Exercise for Beginners, where we talked about hip mobility. I do try to post every week, although during the holiday season, I too am busy. So bear with me. I'll try and get a couple more videos out here before the end of the year. But if not, thank you for joining. Subscribe to my channel and share it if you find this information interesting, and happy holidays.